Yesterday, Wednesday, was sort of a timeout. Jesus and his disciples went to Bethany to get out of the city, let things cool down again. But here we are Thursday, and Jesus is back in the city of Jerusalem, and tensions are running high. Everyone knows that Jesus has so humiliated the leaders of the Jews that there is only one possible cultural response that they can make. He has to die a death that is public and that is as humiliating for him as they have been humiliated by him. Everyone in that upper room knows this. It is a foregone conclusion. It is only a matter of when, not if. And with that realization, there is another question that hangs in the air. Who will succeed Jesus? When Jesus is taken away by the authorities and killed, who will lead this new movement? And so everybody in the room is at the same time grieving and wondering privately to themselves, is it I, Lord? Am I the one?
Did you count, Sandy?
Finally, the moment comes, and Jesus gets up, and he takes off his outer cloak, his mantle, the symbol of who he is, that cloak that is immediately recognizable by everyone else. That cloak that, if wrapped around someone else, will immediately convey that this is Jesus' successor. And he gets up and he takes it off. And breaths are held, hearts are stopped, and dry throats swallowed. Is it going to be me? Is it I? Only the moment comes and goes. Jesus does not wrap his mantle around one of the disciples. Instead, he calmly folds it and puts it on a chair. And now, wearing his underwear, which is really the outerwear of a slave, he takes a towel and wraps it around himself and gets down on all fours, on hands and knees, and fills a basin with water and begins to wash the feet of his disciples. Some of them are horrified, because this is woman's work, and not just any woman's work. This is a slave woman's work. In fact, a slave woman that no Jewish woman would ever do, because it is considered unclean. It is only a foreign female slave that could perform this act of washing someone's feet. And they recoil. We get Peter's response in the text. They are shocked. The highest of the high has stooped down to become the lowest of the low. And when Jesus is done, he gets back on his chair and he looks around and he asks them, do you know what I have done for you? And he gets blank stares back, no answer. And he begins to tell them. People who wear mantles speak a word with authority, and even if it's a casual word, people and policies are immediately set in motion, whether they are for the good or for the ill. And eventually the time comes when neither good nor ill even matters, only the personal feelings of that person in authority. Those people who wear the mantle sooner or later begin to act only for themselves. People who wear towels clean up the mess. They clean up after people. A towel can be used to dry hands and to dry feet. A towel can be used to wipe down a dirty table and make it clean again. A towel can be used to swaddle an infant and even clean up after their messes. A towel can be used when it's wet to assuage a fever, aches, or pains. A towel can bind wounds and help heal. The person who wears the mantle leads from above. The person who wears the towel leads from underneath and cleans up the mess and heals, and bit by bit makes the world right again. And that person is the one that serves with passionate compassion, because this is an unglamorous, unnoticed kind of leadership, going behind after everybody has left to put it all right again. There is another lesson that is embedded in this text as well. And it's a very subtle one. If you notice when Thelma read it at the beginning, there is talk of Judas, the betrayer, being present. After Jesus washes the feet of the disciples, he raises the fact that the betrayer is there. We must assume that Judas is there and Jesus washed his feet. And the question that this text raises is, if we are to be these towel leaders, if we are to be servants cleaning up the mess, who do we serve? Jesus not only washed the feet of the rest of his disciples, he washed the feet also of Judas. And if we think about this night is the night when the faithful gather. This night is the night when we cocoon ourselves and try to remember the upper room, when we think that everybody there is for Jesus and all those against Jesus are outside of this room, and yet Judas is there, and Judas has his feet washed by Jesus. The church is no different. The church is full of the faithful and the faithless. The church is full of the steadfast and those who betray, and like the rest of the disciples, those who deny and who run away and who hide. The church is full of those who serve and are served. We're an entire mixed bag. And Jesus did not say to the disciples, and following by example, wash the feet of only those who are deserving. Wash everyone's feet. And if we really take that to heart, and this kind of servant leadership, the kind of leadership that goes around cleaning up the messes and healing the world and putting it right, then really what Jesus is setting in motion is a community that is set about reconciliation. Nowhere in John does Jesus say that hardest of all sayings that is in Matthew and Luke, love your enemies. He doesn't need to, because here he is doing it in action. Wash the feet of your enemies. Wash the feet of those who betray. Wash the feet of those who deny. Wash the feet of those who run away, and wash the feet of those who are steadfast. Wash them all. And give reconciliation a chance and a hope for a new world of peace and justice. That is what the beloved community looks like. That is what Jesus asks us to do. But ultimately, our identity as the beloved community does not depend on whether we do follow through and we do wash each other's feet, no matter who we are. Ultimately, it rests on the fact that we are first beloved by God, where Jesus begins and where this text begins and where it ends. Jesus, having loved them to the end, and loved them fully. And this commandment I give to you, love one another as I have loved you. It does not matter who we are. It does not matter what our journey is. It does not matter what we have done on our journey. We are all first beloved by God. And if we take that as our identity, if we take that as our real marker as the beloved community, then we come to understand that God is far bigger than any of our past hopes and far bigger than any of our future failures. And if we understand that and embrace that, then we can get through this night and the day that follows, and the nights and the days that follow that, knowing that we live totally in God's grace. And yes, wouldn't it be nice if we could wash each other's feet? Wouldn't it be nice if we could heal the world? But it is God's grace that does that. Let us just try to be faithful